Now, guys, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So we all like what we like. And you might be seriously surprised at what some people like. You might think, wow, I had no idea people that person would like that because you think there are often times that I think that I'm like the bee's knees. I'm very good looking. So I often think, yes, I'm like the best looking person ever. So I always assume, I know it's not right necessarily, but I always assume that people like me or want to date me. I always assume that. Now, it might not be right, it might not be true, it might not even be something that they would even consider. But in general, like most men are like that, I would say. Not most men, but some men are just very much like, they like me. People are often say people like them, right? Like a lot of people feel very good about them. A lot of men, especially. Women have a different way of thinking, but I think a lot of men will think if that person is a living, breathing person, they like me. Now, a lot of men might be like, yeah, and something that's funny because you're like, a lot of men don't even look like people would necessarily like them, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? But there, a lot of men will be like, even like the least attractive person will often think that people like them, right? Which is good. You shouldn't feel like you're not liked. If you have low self-esteem as a guy, you probably wouldn't feel that way. But I think every guy with a high self-esteem and a high confidence is going to think that people like them, right? They're just going to automatically feel, unless they're depressed or they've always not dated, they might not think that. But in general, for the most part, if you are a guy that has ever dated lots of women or lots of men, you're going to think that men and women like you. And I'm very gorgeous, and I think, in my case, it's definitely more accurate than not. But literally, some people don't like me sometimes, but don't want to date me. But I often think that most people would want to date me, and I'm very lucky because I look super good. I look like Cindy Crawford as a man, right? When I'm Marco. Anyway, so most people would like me. But, I still think that in general, to do that and just to assume that is not necessarily true. But in general, I'm very good looking. I think I'm like one of the top good looking people in Hollywood, even. So I'm pretty sure I'm like this big, huge eligible person to date. So, but I feel like it's funny because, people are like, why would you just assume? And I'm not talking, because if someone's a lesbian or someone's gay, or no, if there's a straight man or a lesbian in the room, I would just assume they think I'm attractive. I wouldn't think they'd want to date me, but I know they would assume I'm attractive. But like I said, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. There are times where you might be very surprised, but people won't think you're that good looking. And there are some people that think that bodybuilders, which I'm a bodybuilder, Marco, but some people think that bodybuilders are gross, and some people think that bodybuilders have too much muscle or are too veiny even, or something. They might think something, right? But for the most part, I have a very good look, and I'm in the top 1% of beauty standard looks. So as a guy and a girl, so I am very beautiful, but and very good looking. Now, some people won't want to admit they like me, or they just pretend that I'm going to be into them rather than them being into me. But in general, I think for the most part, it's not a big deal, darling. I totally enjoy everyone.